Hello students, this is Professor R.M. Mahendrakar from JSS Arts, Science and Commerce College, Gokak. In the last session, we had studied the Hydrosere succession. Today, we'll be studying the Xerosere succession. Xerosere is defined as a succession which begins in dry habitat and reaches a climax. The habitat, besides being deficient of water, is devoid of organic matter. The xerosere originates on rock surfaces, which may be in an unweathered state or in a sandy habitat. In a xerosere succession, changes take place both in plants and animals. Now, depending upon the habitat in which the xerosere occurs, there are two types of xerosere. First, the lithosere. This refers to a succession that occurs on the rock surfaces. Now here you can see the whole succession of the plant occurring on rocky surface. The second is the samosere. Samosere, it refers to a vegetational succession that begins on sandy habitat. The pioneers of these samoseres are the sandwort and lemongrass in deserts and salt-tolerant species such as the littoral algae and glassworts of the coastal sand. Let us study the various vegetational succession that occurs in the lithosere. In lithosere, the first stage is the crustose lichen stage. The second is the foliage lichen stage. The third is the moss stage. The fourth is the herb stage. The fifth is the shrub stage. And the last sixth stage is the forest stage. First, we shall see the crustose lichen stage. Now, as I've told you, on the lithosere, the succession begins on a rocky surface, a rock that is not eroded or weathered. So, due to great exposure to the sun and extreme deficiency of water, the first pioneers on the bare rocks are the few simple organisms. The most successful organisms are the crustose lichen. These are able to withstand extreme desiccation due to excessive dryness. During rainy season, they absorb large quantity of water and flourish rapidly. Migration to distant rock takes place either by spores or sporidia by wind. The common species of crustose lichen are the rhizocarpon, rhinzoidea, etc. These lichens, they produce certain acids which bring about the weathering of rocks. Thus, these lichens begin the long and slow process of rock disintegration. Rock particles and dead organic matter of lichen accumulate and become mixed with the small particles of the rock to form a thin layer of moist soil on the rock. The soil formed by weathering of organic matter make the substratum suitable for the growth of the next community of plants, that is the foliage lichen. As soon as a little soil is formed by the activities of crustose lichen, higher forms of lichen such as foliose lichen appear. These include the dermatocarpon, parmelia, umbilicana, Pseudophabae, etc. They have large leafy thalli which overlap the crustose lichen. They can absorb and retain more moisture. Presence of foliose lichen not only adds organic matter but accumulated dust particles and thus helps in creation of humus. The weathering of rocks mixed with humus results in the development of a thin layer of soil on the rock surface. In this way, more and more humus accumulates and gradually a thin layer of soil is formed which consists of rock particles, remains of lichens, dust particles and moisture. Thus, there is a change in the habitat and it makes ready for the next successive community to grow on this partly developed soil-like conditions on the rocky layer. The third stage is the moss stage. With the accumulation of dust and humus in the small quantities, the environment is altered enough to allow the establishment of the secondary community in a rather definite sequence. Scattered patches of xerophytic mosses such as Tortula, Grimmia, Byram, Bartula, etc. begin to invade the environment that had so far been dominated by the lichens. At their successful growth, they compete with the lichen. Due to their death and decay, thus there is more addition of organic matter into the soil. The richness of the soil layer now increases and later on the mosses like the Funaria, Sphagnum, Polytrichum, etc. make their appearance. Among the animals, mites become more varied and some small spiders and springtails as well as these tardigrades become associated with this secondary community. The next stage is the herb stage. As the mat of mosses become more extensive, some soil accumulates. Much of the soil is blown in from the surrounding area during windy period. More mineral matter is added to the soil as acid leaches out from the overlying vegetation and increases the depth of the soil layer. Many annual weeds develop which are later on followed by biennials and finally perennial grasses. Andropogon, commonly known as the broom sedge, becomes the dominant grass in many areas. With the influx of grasses, the growth of some herbaceous plants like the Aristidia, Festuca, Justica, Solidago, Triadex, etc. make their appearance. After their death, there is much more accumulation of humus in the soil together with the further weathering of rocks. Thus, the habitat changes with the decreasing xeric condition. The fauna, that is animals, also become varied. Nematodes and larval insects and different types of mites appear in the gradually altered environment. Further modification of the environment provides conditions for the germination and growth of shrubs and perennial woody plants, such as the rus, phytocarpus, acacia, Proscopus, Capparis, Ziziphus, etc., which dominate this stage. The shrubs overshadow the herbaceous vegetation and produce more organic matter. These shrubs are finally replaced by trees. With the approach of shrubs, the animals also become vivid and numerous and join hands with the vegetation in altering the environment. Now the last climax stage is the forest stage. With the establishment of shrubs, more and more soil is formed and the environment becomes increasingly humid. This favors the growth of woody trees. In the beginning, the trees are stunted and are sparsely placed. With the climatic conditions becoming more favorable gradually, a climax forest community is established. The climax community is the last aggregation in the successional series. If the climax condition does change and no catastrophic events alter the area, the community maintains indefinitely. Thus, from the Crustose lichen stage, a full forest stage appears in this Lithocere. Now here you can see there is this diagrammatic view of this Lithocere. Now here these are the rock exposed areas on this rocky surface. First pioneer plants, that is the lichens, appear. Lichens then gradually make the conditions favorable for the growth of the fructose lichens and the mosses. Then the mosses will then provide the conditions necessary for the growth of these annual weeds. Annual weeds are followed by these perennial weeds and grasses. Then these perennial weeds and grasses are then followed by the shrub stage. The shrub stage are then followed by small tree stage, and then we have this large tree vegetations. So here this topic on this Xerosere. Hope you have understood all the different stages in Xerosere, and thank you for your time. Please take care of your health and maintain proper hygiene, social distance, and also see to it that you wear mask whenever you go out. Thank you.